If we were to move into a scenario where inflation was picking up, firstly, that would be quite a strange state of affairs for markets. It's been a very long time, and you could even go back decades. It's really the late 70s, early 80s when we had significant inflation. So really there's no practitioners in financial markets now who have first-hand professional experience of that. So that means that some investment logic could be turned on its head and buying stocks that we haven't really been comfortable buying for a long time. I think the easiest approach to that from a portfolio point of view is to not be underweight the commodity stocks, because these are the ones where prices could really run ahead and their revenue lines benefit more than they're going to lose on the cost side. You really don't want to be in stocks that are price takers, where their cost lines are going to come through inflating in a way that the revenue lines can't cope with. So in practical terms, some of the sorts of companies that could be hit by a rise in inflation would be the property trusts, the REITs, because they generally have fixed escalators on their rent lines, but no caps on what their costs could be coming through. So they can get squeezed. Also because inflation, if we see inflation going up, you're also going to see nominal bond yields go up. And so the valuation of the REITs would also be hit, so they could get a bit of a double whammy. Stocks that would benefit, as I said, would be those commodity stocks. That's both the defensive safe haven of gold, which is seen as a bit of a safe haven at the extremes of inflation or deflation, but then also other mining commodity stocks. We like some of the more niche names, rather than the large stocks with the big iron ore exposures, where you've got a linkage to what happens with China's economy and China's debt levels, or even the base metal companies, which have a lot of financialization, London Metals Exchange, a lot of political risk. So the exposures we have are through companies like Lynas and Syra, which are rare earths and graphite producers respectively. These commodities go into the industries of the future, consumer electronics, batteries, moving into the growth of autonomous vehicles, where the demand side for that should start to tighten up the supply-demand fundamentals and lead to fundamentally driven price growth rather than just speculative price upside. So I've mentioned that gold can be a hedge against inflation, but I have always been loath to include a stock in the portfolio just as a kind of macro or a top-down placeholder. We also like to have conviction on the fundamentals of that specific business that you're buying. We're quite comfortable owning a couple of the Australian gold producers, namely Evolution and Newcrest, because the industry went through a very tough time where the Aussie dollar gold price fell, Aussie dollar costs were too high, everyone was struggling with their profitability and had to radically reshape their businesses. What we've seen now for several years is that the Aussie dollar gold price has maintained at a really strong level, and so profit margins have been high, but the industry has retained its discipline. And so these businesses are generating really nice cash returns, which they can then go into reinvesting into their business, whether it's further exploration or a little bit of sensible M&A around the side. So the Australian gold companies are generating really nice profitability now. They're not kind of marginal businesses that you might have thought about them in the past. We like Evolution. It's growing off of a smaller base. Management have a great track record of very sensible and targeted acquisitions and expansions. Relative to the cash that they're generating, we don't think the valuation is demanding. Newcrest, on the other hand, we like because it's got an absolutely world-class asset base. You can own this stock for 10 years and it will still have decades of high returning gold growth ahead of it. So one that you can sort of put in the bottom drawer and own as a global quality play in gold.